Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Sometimes people get the title of my book wrong. They call it The Boy with Two Moms. I once considered that wording, but I changed it. After all, I'm no longer a boy, but I'm still a son, and I'll always be a son to my two moms. I wanted the title to reflect that because this story is as much about Mary and Janet as it is me. My birth mother suffered from schizophrenia, so at 18 months old, I was put into foster care. A year later, I met my foster parents, Mary and Janet. Our family fell in love with one another, long before the courts told us it was okay to do so. 2 years later, Mary formally adopted me, but Janet had no rights to me on paper. This was 1994. Within a month of that adoption, my birth mother and grandmother appealed it, and after spending nearly a year in and out of courts in Washington, D.C., my adoption was overturned. The courts said that the only place I'd ever called home wasn't the right place for me to grow up, and that my moms were unfit to raise me because they were white and gay. They said that I wouldn't know who I am, that I would value white over black, and that I would lose my cultural self. It was agreed that I would visit my biological family at least once every other week. My biological mother had trouble functioning on a day-to-day basis, so I spent every other Saturday with my grandmother instead. She took great pride in making sure that I knew Mary and Janet had, in her words, stolen me. As I grew older and my voice grew stronger, I decided to cut my visits down to holidays. Still, the custody arrangement stayed the same on paper. Unfortunately, we had a new challenge ahead. When I was 7, Mary said she had something called cancer. Every night I prayed that Mary would get better, that the love our family had for one another would save her. However, 4 years later, I learned that our love wasn't enough, and Mary passed away 2 weeks shy of her 38th birthday. After Mary died, Janet was still only my legal guardian. She had to wait another 8 years for the day the words on paper matched the way we already felt in our hearts, minds, and home, the day she could formally adopt me. That happened after I turned 18 and no longer needed the consent of my biological family. My moms taught me many lessons, but one always stays with me. They said that hate is taught in the same way as love, and that I should feel sorry for those who are raised to hate someone without even knowing them. The courts and the laws have since changed, mostly for the better, but somewhat for the worse. These religious freedom bills allow adoption agencies to refuse to help same-sex couples like my mom's adopt kids out of the foster system simply by saying it's against their religious beliefs. And these laws make this perfectly legal. It's time to change the narrative. It's time to change hearts and minds by sharing our stories, no matter how difficult or horrible. Thank you, Family Equality, for fighting for families like mine every day, for lifting the voices of sons and daughters like me, for saying to the world that all families deserve respect, equality, and love. And thank you all for letting me share my story tonight.